Did exploration really end the Middle Ages? Imagine a world where the horizon was the limit and the seas were a mystery. This was the reality for many Europeans during the Middle Ages, a time that lasted from the 5th century to the late 15th century. While exploration played a role in marking the transition to a new era, it was not the sole reason for the end of the medieval period. During the Middle Ages, Europe was divided into small kingdoms after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. For many years, most people had little interest or means to explore beyond their local lands. However, by the 14th and 15th centuries, several changes began to pave the way for exploration. The breakup of the Mongol Empire disrupted overland trade routes, making it harder to access goods from Asia. At the same time, the Ottoman Turks and Venetian merchants controlled key trade routes in the Mediterranean. This led countries like Portugal and Spain to look for new paths to Asia. Technological advancements also played a part. The invention of the magnetic compass and improvements in shipbuilding and navigation techniques allowed for longer sea voyages. As European states grew stronger politically and economically, they had more resources to invest in exploration. Explorers like Christopher Columbus and Portuguese navigators aimed to find new routes to Asia. Instead, they stumbled upon lands like the Americas. These voyages, starting in the late 15th century, opened up new trade networks and cultural exchanges that changed Europe and the world. However, exploration was just one piece of a larger puzzle. The Renaissance sparked a revival of classical learning and arts. The decline of feudalism led to the rise of centralized monarchies. Economic changes, such as the growth of towns and the early stages of capitalism, also played a role. Religious shifts, including the early stirrings of the Reformation, further contributed to the end of the Middle Ages. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 altered trade and political dynamics in Europe. Exploration was part of a broader set of crises and transformations that marked the end of the medieval period. It symbolized a shift towards a more connected Europe, but it was not the only factor. The end of the Middle Ages was a complex process involving many social, political, and intellectual changes. In the context of medieval times in Europe, exploration acted as a catalyst that sped up the transition from the Middle Ages. It opened new trade routes and introduced Europeans to new lands and ideas. Yet, it was just one of many overlapping developments that gradually closed the chapter on the medieval era and ushered in the early modern age.